which is naming and shaming, that's right up there as a very important part of this whole campaign. Because the people who do these bestial things to children do not want their identities publicly known, or even who are complicit in covering up for their colleagues. And it's the covering up that also we're targeting here. The public officials who know that their colleagues are up to no good and who bend over backwards to keep their names out of the public. So let's get those names, not just of the paedophiles and the people who are benefiting from child trafficking racket that's going on, but also all the public officials in a local authority who may be complicit, and I'm afraid some people in the police as well, sorry to say. Right, is Brian Gerrish around? Brian? No? Right, Brian can be safely relied upon to give what you might call an alternative view of the bigger picture of this whole area. He runs the UK column newspaper, which I think now has a circulation of anything up to 10,000 or maybe more by now. And, well, I hope he turns up later. But since Robert has already introduced this whole issue of what is going on in the family courts and the child stealing racket, and I mentioned that already, I think we'll go straight on to a very high profile victim who's come all the way from across the water to talk to us about her personal experience in this atrocious and abominable practice. She had her daughter taken from her by the family court and placed with her paedophile ex-partner. And not only that, but having lost one child, having just given birth to a new gorgeous little baby, who luckily is a famous baby now because she's been in the newspapers, she was about to have the baby taken and had to flee the country to escape this mafia. So I introduced Vicky Haig, who's also very famous in the horse racing and horse training world. She's a horse trainer, so she's no mean person to actually have this as a public profile person to take this forward. Vicky.
Oh, hi everybody. I'm not really a campaigner and I've never liked politics, and here I am, standing in Trafalgar Square, speaking at a rally, working alongside John Hemming, the MP, doing something that's totally alien to me. I'm a racehorse trainer, an ex-jump jockey, and I'm also a mother of two beautiful daughters, and that's why I'm here today. Otherwise, I'll be watching the derby at home, which is running today, and it's a total one-off for me to be missing the biggest horse race in the world. But this is obviously a lot more important to me, and I will be speaking straight from my heart. I've got a 7-year-old daughter who I miss very much. She misses me. We're very close, and a mother's love and a bond will never ever be broken. No matter how hard these social services try to alienate me and my daughter from each other, they will never ever succeed. My daughter's been lied to. She thinks I've abandoned her. Hopefully, in another year or so, she'll be able to watch YouTube videos and she'll see what her mother actually put herself through to protect her from abuse.
And she'll know.
Thank you. Very uncomfortable up here. I'd much rather be on a racehorse galloping at speed over fences with 30 other horses around me. I'd like to talk about my personal story, which is unbelievable, but you need to believe it because it's true. I was trying to help my daughter since the age of 3 to protect her, and the authorities turned against me. They took her from me. They placed her with the person that she'd been telling the police on video, and social workers was abusing her. I haven't seen her since November last year. I had a miscarriage last year because of the stress and trauma of having my daughter taken from me. As you can see, I don't have two heads. and look quite normal, which I am. I'm an ordinary mother of 2 beautiful daughters. I got pregnant again. I was arrested twice this year. I was kept in police custody for 65 hours at 35 weeks pregnant. I was not given any food, any water. I was admitted 3 times to hospital during these 65 hours, and I was also dragged at 1 o'clock in the morning from a hospital bed by 6 police officers to take me back to the cells. It's unbelievable. No, I'm fine. No, honestly, I'm fine. So then I was advised by John Hemming, the MP, to leave my own country to protect unborn Haig, who was on the hit list. I received letters from Nottinghamshire Council saying unborn Haig was now on a child protection register and that she was at risk of emotional abuse. So I spoke to the social worker and I said, how can you emotionally abuse a baby that can't even speak? And she had no answer for that. Anyway, I took John Hemming's advice and I fled to Ireland to have a baby in peace. And she's there now. She's 3 weeks old. Baby Sapphire. Absolutely gorgeous. Like her older sister. And I've got 2 children and they are now living in different countries. They've never met each other. I thought there was a human right in this country, a right for a family life, to be left in peace, to enjoy not only your children but your life, your family. What happened to mine? Where's my human right? Where are my daughter's human rights to be living together, to be brought up together by their loving, caring mummy? Who's going to stop all of this? How are we going to protect these children? We need answers, and we need answers now. We need to get on to the government who are ignoring us. The ministers are ignoring us. They know this is happening. Surely they must do. There's enough of us now. In closing, I suppose, thank you for listening to me. Keep strong. Keep standing up for your rights, and that's my story. Thank you very much.
Well, there's one brave lady, because she could have stayed where she's now living and stayed completely safe in the circumstances, but she has flown over here especially to be with us today to tell her story. So please support her, look out for her, follow her case, tell everybody about this. And as you know, if one of these very high profile cases, which hers is definitely one, really gets to the mainstream media, and Vicky's is already in several mainstream newspapers, this could begin to bring the wall down. We could get everybody talking about this issue, and that's ultimately what we want. We want the whole of Britain to be talking about what's happening to the children, don't we? Yes? Okay. Brian? No? I'm wondering if I can ask Maggie to come up and step into Brian's breach, as it were, because Maggie has been very active in this whole area of trying to get justice in the family courts. So since we have a few extra minutes, perhaps Maggie can just... She's another huge hero of our movement. Well, everybody's heroes, but she's one of the hardest working people. Maggie Tuttle.
Hi everyone. Well, I'm a grandmother and I've lost the right to see my grandson. And the courts have now put a gagging order on me because I threatened social services with an investigation. They have lied with deceit. I've been a campaigner for 36 years. I helped to change the prison system in this country back in the 70s. I saw a lot of sorrow. I didn't cry. You have to carry on. But my God, what I found out, it had to happen close to home for me to now find out what's happening to children. They're stolen and they're sold. Remember, foster agents and adoption agencies, they're not owned by the government, they're private businesses. And if social workers do not give them children to sell into the foster and adoption, you haven't got a business, have you? So it's all down to money. They advertise, do you want a career? Does anyone want a career in fostering? You can get £500 plus a week per child, tax-free, and lots of other benefits. So if the social workers are not handing on a plate to the adoption agents and the foster agents, and there's no kids to sell, is there? Is there anyone? No. Exactly. So it's time that we all got together. You all go away. Do your own research. You don't have to listen to me or believe me. But by God have I found out via my grandson. And by rights, if the police knew I was talking to you, they're going to lock me away for 6 months. The other point is I've just handed in a letter to number 10 Downing Street. Under a gagging order in this country, you're not allowed to speak to anyone. So I wrote to Mr. Cameron, we the public are having gagging orders put onto us, which means I've been told you cannot speak to John Hemming or to David Amos, your own MP. So if I can't speak to an MP, am I allowed to speak to the Prime Minister? Am I allowed to send a letter to the Queen? No. That's our freedom taken. And they're doing a lot more, believe me. They really are. So come on, guys and ladies, get together, sign the petition that's up. We need the family courts opened. Stop the selling of our children. There are children out there who need help and support and who have been abused. That is very true. But there's thousands of kids every year. Social workers will not put them with the grandparents or immediate family. They shove them for sale. And that is it. So it's up to you guys to do something.
Yeah, very important message. I'm told that Brian Gerrish is not far off, but we'll go straight on after that, I think, with Sophie. Because Sophie, who is a victim of the family court system, one might say, has been using the full force of her very good legal brain to analyse where the system really goes wrong, and has been studying it with a very fine lens. So here's Sophie.
Thanks, Belinda. I must just thank Belinda at this point, because I don't think I'd be able to stand up here without the support that she's given me over the past year and certainly the last couple of months. But yeah, as Belinda said, I'm a victim of the family court like Maggie. I've experienced it firsthand, and you might find it quite unbelievable that children are being taken from safe families like Vicky Haig's and given to paedophiles like Vicky Haig's ex-partner. And I will tell you how that happens. It's quite right what Maggie says. It's an industry, it's a big money-making industry where there are lots of conflicts of interest. For example, Anthony Douglas is the chief executive of CAFCAS, who are the children's voice in court. He is also the chair of the British Agency of Adoption and Fostering. Every time a child is taken by a social worker who has adoption targets, they have financial incentives to take children. They take the child, and they get the temptation of bonuses and promotion in order to take children, and so that tempts them to behave completely ruthlessly and lie in court. As the court do not need any evidence, they can rely on hearsay alone. They don't need to prove anything beyond reasonable doubt. They can prove it on the basis of balance of probability. And basically what that means is, if a social worker makes an allegation against you as a parent, then that is treated as fact. You are guilty unless you can prove beyond reasonable doubt that the social worker has lied. And in most of the cases, because the social worker is hiding your children from you, and you've got no idea where those children are, any time you get to see the children, you are supervised by two other social workers, then it's impossible to ask the child whether what the social worker is saying that child said is true or not. So the social worker can basically make up anything they want and present it to the court as fact. The judge will say, yes, that's I found it on fact, I don't need any evidence, and therefore you have, I find fact that you've abused your child, and because you've denied it, you've now become a liar, and that's fact as well. So basically, and because it's in secrecy, there's no jury, there's no one allowed into that courtroom except for all the lawyers and social workers that are against you. They can do absolutely anything they want, and the judges work with I don't know who works for who. I don't know whether it's the judge that works for the council or the council that works for the judge, but they certainly work together, and if the local authority have not got anything against you, then the judge will advise them on how that they can get some kind of crooked evidence to go with you. And the one key way that they get this crooked evidence is like paying £30,000 to psychologists who depend on this work. They basically they only do these parenting assessments, and if they don't give the courts the psychologist assessment that they want, they will lose their income. So they will make up personality disorders. They will come out with avoidant attachment profiles, or bordering on a personality disorder, or some other ridiculous unheard of disorder, in order to, or say that you've got narcissistic tendencies, in order to say that you are not fit to look after your child. And so your child can basically be taken from you on the basis of this completely crooked psychologist report. And even if the psychologist finds in your favour, after 9 months of interrogation and of your child being placed with a highly paid foster adopter, it's placed with a foster adopter if it tends to be under 7 when it's taken. But if your child has been with this foster family for 9 months while you've been interrogated, then and every single inch of your life is interrogated right back to your childhood, and if you've been in care, then that is used as a reason to put your children in care. After 9 months, if they've got nothing against you, what the court will say is that they use the welfare principle, so that if the child is and they will say that it's the welfare of the child that is paramount, and although you seem to be a good parent, the child is settled with the foster care or a foster adopter, and therefore the child has to be adopted. And so you can basically lose your children where there's no evidence, there is nothing against you whatsoever, just on the balance of probability that your child is at risk of emotional harm, or that you are, or that the child has settled in foster care while they have proved that your child is perfectly safe in your care. And the whole thing generates millions for what this child protection industry, and it's a complete scandal. And the people that are attracted to working in these industries are the people that want to abuse children quite often. and it is the paedophiles that are attracted to this industry, and so the government is taking children from perfectly good families and placing them with paedophiles. And what social workers tend to be saying is, I took the child because if they take the child, then their actions are unaccountable. If they leave the child, then they will be plastered all over the press if anything happens to the child. So they will basically take any child, knowing that whatever happens to that child after they've taken them, they will be protected in every way, because if a foster carer abuses a child, or if an adoptive carer abuses the child, the social worker and the government are completely protected, and it turns into just a big cover-up with all the secrecy and the injunctions and the threats to the parent of prison if they ever speak about the horrendous thing that's happened to them.
Thank you, Sophie. Anybody who wants to know more about exactly what does happen could be well advised to get in touch with Sophie. Sophie Rises on Facebook. She's really becoming an expert on this whole, well, I call it an infestation, or a sort of disease, you know. Like all diseases, if we don't treat it, if we don't aerate it, if we don't disinfect it, it will go on proliferating. These officials will go on breeding more officials and more cases and more wrecked families and more children who inevitably, if they're taken from their birth parents and there's no good reason, they're going to suffer emotional harm. And what sort of adults will they then become? Well, we know that people do survive, people do recover, people do get their senses back, but it's a very long, hard road. And in the second half of this event, we're going to be hearing from some of the survivors, because their voice needs to be heard over and over again, or people just won't believe this is going on. So the survivors are incredibly important to this whole movement. Now, I don't know if Brian's around. Brian? No. I think we'll go straight on to one of the categories of high-level abuse that I mentioned at the beginning, was this state abuse against other states, other nations, other indigenous peoples of this world. And there's been one huge champion standing up for this and speaking on our platforms in the last few months, who unfortunately, and very strangely one has to say, since he was about to speak here, is not with us. And why? Because he's been deported back to his country. And why? Because he's giving public lectures. Well, what's wrong with public lecturing? Lots of people come from over the seas to lecture to our audiences here. Universities are full of people from overseas coming to give public lectures. So what about this one? He's treading on some very, very big establishment corns. And his name, of course, is Kevin Annett. He was deported last weekend. We wish him very well with the campaign from wherever he is. Luckily, we have Cornelius, who can stand in for Kevin. We have this coffin represents the, well, he always mentions this figure of 50,000 murdered children, native Indian children murdered in the residential schools in Canada, run mainly by the Catholic Church. So Kevin has got it in for the Pope big time. But the figure, as I've heard from members of the Indian community themselves, say that that's actually an underestimate. The figure could be many hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And when you think that there's been a genocide against the North American Indians going back 400, 500 years, with several Western peoples involved in that, including our own government, then you have to say we are talking about millions, possibly even billions. It's an atrocious thing for anybody in this country to have on their conscience. Anyway, I'm not saying more about it. I'll hand you to Cornelius, who'll speak for Kevin in absentia.
Thank you, Belinda. I'm going to read out a message from Kevin Annett, who's back in Canada now. And this is his message to you. Greetings to you all. This is Kevin Annett. I regret that I cannot be with you in the flesh today, because the government and Crown of England is afraid of my presence in your country and has banned me from re-entering Stansted Airport last Sunday night. But the truth cannot be banned as easily as can one man. And we are all gathered today to bear witness to this fact. My body may be absent from you, but my spirit stands beside you today in our battle for what is right. It is truly an honour for me to have been banned and deported from a country like England, whose government and churches sponsored the extermination of millions of people around the world, and who continue colluding in concealing these crimes. But England is not her ruling elite, but rather the people themselves, people like you and my own ancestors, who have always rallied and fought for what is good and just, including the protection of our lands, our sovereign liberties, and the lives and future of all our children. It is for the children that we are gathered today, to say no to a regime where over 500 children incarcerated in the foster care system can somehow go missing. 500 children who were placed in fostering in the last year have gone missing, vanished. Nobody knows where they are. And many others who are regularly and almost automatically placed in the homes of known child rapists that we've heard already. The heroic fight of Holly Grieg and her family and friends in the face of state persecution is an example of the filth we are exposing at senior levels of power in England, and also evidence of the power of the truth to move mountains when that truth is wielded by honest and persistent people. And it is your honesty and your persistence that will drive this forward. Many others today will describe how and why children in our culture are so easily abused, tortured, exploited, humiliated, belittled, and even murdered, with little or no legal or political consequence for those actions. A Christian tradition that tells us that our Mother Earth is cursed and that every child is born evil and corrupted cannot help but breed not only state and church sanctioned child rape and torture, but genocide and ecocide as well. Our very survival as a species, as a family, now depends on our capacity to overcome that insane and murderous tradition and return to the gentle and loving natural capacities found within every newborn child. Recently, an Irish senator and Taoiseach hopeful, David Norris, was quoted as saying, "I have not the slightest interest in children, and in terms of classical paedophilia, there's something to be said for it." Yet this condoner of child torture still sits in the Irish Senate and may one day be head of the state in Ireland. In the face of such grotesque and indifferent attitudes within our official society, our institutional society, and the systemic refusal by the police and courts to seriously prosecute paedophiles and prevent their crimes, it is left now to all of us to take responsibility to defend our children when the society will not. Using our common law rights and obligations, when the courts will not act, we can and must begin performing citizens' arrests of anyone, including politicians, heads of state, and even popes who hurt or endanger children or who collude with those who do so. And from arrest, we can and must impose sentencing and judgments on these criminals to make sure that they do not harm the children of our communities ever again. Such a step requires great resolve, courage, and clarity, not just once, but persistently over many, many years. But more than anything else, it needs great unity in our ranks and the involvement of masses of other citizens in direct actions to defend every aspect of our lives and the health of our planet. Last page. It is my honor to be part of this great movement with all of you. Despite my temporary barring from England, the work of our International Tribunal into crimes of church and state is continuing. On September the 16th, that tribunal will convene here in London and in many other cities worldwide to begin the process of bringing to trial those who have planned and executed crimes against humanity. The secrecy of the family courts and the way it behaves towards parents and children is a crime against humanity. I'm just going away from Kevin's speech. It is counter to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is an international treaty that has been signed and ratified by all nations at the United Nations apart from the USA and Somalia. And it's enforced in this country. And the secrecy in the family courts is in breach of that convention. They are illegal. Brothers and sisters, may the crystal clarity and light within my heart and mind at this time reach out to yours. And together, may we find the strength and the resolve to carry on to our promised land of justice and liberty, where all children can be raised in a world free of violence, free of this sickness, fear and subjugation. Kevin says here, during my recent incarceration in a British immigration prison, I met many brave men and women fighting on alone for their dignity and rights in the face of the brutality of a British police state. While I was with them, I was reminded of the words of George Orwell when he wrote about a fellow freedom fighter during the Spanish Civil War. When I look into your eyes, no power can disinherit, no bomb that ever bursts shatters the crystal spirit. We shall overcome. Kevin says thank you and bless you all.
Thank you, Cornelius, and thanks to Kevin. We have arrived at a sort of international moment, so I think possibly we'll go straight on to the Lithuanians who are with us today. If you are here, Beata? She's not here. All right, okay. All right. The Lithuanians have been battling this issue. It's only 3 million people in Lithuania, but they've really taken this child abuse issue to their hearts since there was a high-profile case on which got a lot of media attention. And they've actually had a conference on the issue earlier this year. So they really hats off to the Lithuanians for leading the way internationally on this issue. Well done. Let's give them a round of support and wish them all the best with their worldwide campaign. Sorry you couldn't be with us today. So now we'll go back to the horrors of what's happening in the British family courts with Sheena, who's a grandmother, and where is she? Oh, here she comes. And he's going to, I think, expand on some of the things Sophie was talking about earlier on. So, a force to be reckoned with, Sheena.
Thank you, Belinda. Would anybody else like to come up here who's had problems with the family courts, just so we can see you? Bring your banners, stand up here so that they realise that we're not a bunch of nutters and that we're telling the truth. Thank you. Come on. Along here. Yes, they're all standing alongside me. Come on. They're all here. Come here, stand next to me. We're all here. Somebody would like to break an injunction quickly before I speak. So
Yeah. Hi there. All the foreign parents who are here on holiday with your kids. Hello. Right, we've got a family who came over on to visit their denomination of their church here in the UK. Over from Nigeria, Bishop Gloria Musa. She arrived here with her 3 children. Social workers came to her door with a piece of paper. They had the wrong address. Now obviously when we talk to Nigerian people we don't believe them. So they took her 3 children. The God-fearing woman, she deserves support. She's not allowed to talk to anybody about this. She's distraught. She's a perfect mother. How can this happen? We've got another case where we've got an American couple. The mum's South African, the father's from Texas. The 3 children and the parents stopped in London in transit on their way home from South Africa. For some other reason, Haringey Council took an interest in these children and has applied to The Hague 4 times for these children to be returned to the UK. They are not UK citizens. They have nothing to do with this country. They stopped here in transit. They did not flee. They had adjoining tickets to go home. The family is now hiding in Mexico. Made in England. Thank you.
These children on here, that's my daughter and my 4 granddaughters, Ellie Mae, Ruby, Lacey and Poppy Williams-Piper. They were stolen by Kent County Council, which is run by the Tories. I was also a Conservative councillor for Maidstone Borough Council at the time. They can take anybody's children. They will take anybody's children. The amount of cover-ups that I saw in my own council was unbelievable. And when you go into these courts, you'll realise that the judge is playing tennis doubles with the other side. They are not actually acting lawfully at all. They're acting under their legislated acts, and believe me, they are actors. Judge Richard Polden is responsible, along with Judge Richard Recorder Green. Amanda Barden was the Kafkas guardian that used to work for Kent County Council's assistant social worker. A manager. And what you'll find is that on the care registers, these social workers, when you check them out, they don't even use their full name, such as Ford, who calls himself Ford Ferguson with an E for Ford. His name's Denzel Ford Ferguson, who loved to tell me how he liked my granddaughter to play with his glove box in his car. These people are beyond evil. They need to be outed. They must be taken out of the system. The system, if it does not work, needs to be collapsed, and we used to set up our own system. We need to get back the good social workers that have left the system. We need to get back the good health visitors, the good NHS things, none of them that have been infested with common purpose graduates. And I came across common purpose graduates in my own council who wanted me to write my opinion on families, just so that they could attend a hot foot play scheme. What right did I have? And I refused. And I suggest everybody starts asking questions, realising that they're not operating under the Magna Carta, the common law of this land. And when you register your children, you're actually signing them over to the state, as far as I can see, and it's a royal prerogative to take these children in the courts. Now, if you don't believe me, look at your car registration document. The minute you register it, you become the keeper. So what happens when you register your children? Look at the birth certificate. It says you're the informant. It says that it's Crown copyright, which cannot be used as ID. So why do we use it for their port passes or passports? The truth is, they are bailiffs for social services. They are repossessing their goods. And the barristers are representing you to the state. That's what's going on. And they will not speak out about it. And yet I had 3 barristers let me know in my court case that I was absolutely right. They'd never heard of family group conferences, which are mandatory in Kent. And in Kent, they can spend up to £750 a week per child in foster care. But they won't give them to the grandparents. And I was told by Amanda Barden that I had as much right to my grandchildren as a stranger in the street. And that's the only time she told the truth. She did a joint report with Suzanne Foster, the legal team, saying that I'd said these children had never come into any harm. What I actually said was these children had never come to any harm in my care. And I refuse psychological testing because the lunatics are in the government. They're in the courts. They're in the barristers. They're the ones who are the lunatics that are running the asylum, and hopefully somebody else will have a word.
Hi, my name's Daniela. I'm from Hertfordshire. The social services kidnapped my husband and my 3 kids about 2 years ago, and I'm still going through for some proceedings. I can't mention a lot. And I've survived. And I hate what they've done.
Hiya, my name's Melissa and I've come from Nottingham to be here in this wonderful Trafalgar. Right, I want to follow on from what Sheena has said and what Daniela has said and everyone else has said. But I've got something to tell you. I know a little secret. I know what this at risk of emotional harm boils down to. So if you go to a social worker and you question them, why are you taking my children? What is this at risk from emotional harm? They can't even answer you, and they're the ones that are taking your kids away. So I decided I was going to send a little FOI. Yeah, obviously I don't want to drop off the stage. So I asked my local authority, what's this as a risk from emotional harm? Can you break it down for me, please? Because I want to know. Why are you taking these children away? And there is a checklist. And this checklist, you're waiting for this. Is anyone getting divorced or anything in the audience? Yeah, me. Has anyone got any disabilities? Yeah. Has anyone got any family dysfunction? Yeah. Mental illness or apparent mental illness? Yeah. Has anyone got any bereavement? Yeah? That's all of you then. Every single one of you in this audience could be making sure that social services will come and use this to take your children. So I decided, wait a minute, that's not right. No, hang on a minute, that's normal life. What person doesn't go through some of these things? Are you trying to tell me that social services don't also have these things going on in their life? Because I can tell you, you're talking Tommy Rock. Right, anyway, I'm also a survivor of abuses that went on in care, so what everyone else has said is completely right. If you've been in care and you've been abused, they will use it against you, and that's why they took my children. They don't want my children to talk to me about what's going on in care because I'm being intrusive. I'm their mother. I've got every right to ask them if my children are all right. They can get lost. They're my children. They are not the state's children, and I will ask my children, are you okay today, sweetheart? Have you had a nice time at school? Apparently I'm not allowed to ask these questions because it's intrusive. That's to stop me from finding out if they're being mistreated. Because if they're being mistreated, I will do something about it. And I will question the social workers. Well, recently we went back to court for something to try and get our children back home, and they won't let my children come home because my children are at risk from sexual harm. What the hell is that? What are they trying to say? Are they trying to say I should be celibate? My children are at risk from sexual harm. What is that? Can anyone tell me what at risk from sexual harm is?
God knows.
Exactly. Someone says God knows. So if they can't even define what it is, how can they use that against me? I got told by the Cascas Guardian solicitor, this is the people who are supposed to be against me, that social services do not like being challenged. Well, guess what? I challenged them. And I exposed them in front of the judge about what exactly is going on with my children in care, and they don't like it. And that's why they try to stop me from seeing my kids for 14 weeks. But I'm not having it. So that's why I told you what at risk from emotional harm really means.
Okay, sorry, Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. A real fighter. Right, you going to say something?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Steve. I'm a 40-year-old man from Southwark. Lived in Southwark my whole life. 8 generations lived in Southwark. I was stolen from my grandparents when I was 3 years old. I was put into the state care system. Ended up in the Maudsley mental institution as a child and witnessed atrocious things as a child. Any child shouldn't witness any of these kind of atrocities that I witnessed. I had my so-called carers telling me that my mum and my dad didn't love us, which is why we're in this care system. I am a product of the system, okay? I fight against these people. They are breaking constitutional laws, let alone the common law of the land. They're doing... Sorry, I can't.
That's all right. Thank you, Steve. I think we get the picture, unfortunately. What? A few words from Phil, a grandparent.
No. Hello, folks. I'm a great-grandfather and I'm 75 years old. I just want to tell you all about this filthy council that I've been involved with. You know, many of you people, you don't know that you're all vulnerable to these people. They're ruthless. You see, when it happens to you, you don't know better. You think that it's just happening to you alone, and you don't know who to turn to for support. It's only later on, years later on, that you find out that what they've done. For instance, in my case, it was only after the court case was over that we found out what the charges were. The solicitors disappeared, the court records are missing. Can you believe this? We're paying a penalty for a crime that doesn't exist, and there was no crime. I'm not going to tell you all, good people, I hope. The first charge against my grandson was that his 5.5-year-old daughter didn't attend school regularly. That was the charge. The second charge was that they didn't have their inoculations. The third charge was that the father didn't cooperate with social services. And the fourth charge, they were seen to be dirty and unkempt. Good God, I'm dirty and unkempt now. My shoes are filthy. A lot of you are sweating. That's unkempt. Well, how many times did these social workers ever see my great-grandchildren like that? What a disgrace. I want to tell you people, be careful. Don't trust them. Don't ever trust them. These are criminals we're dealing with. I'm telling you, and if I have my way, I'll see them in court. I'm here because ordinary people like us cannot take these people to court. I couldn't afford it. They used the public funds, all your money, to bring a thing against all us, the abused people. We are the abused, the families who've been abused by the social services. Wicked people. I hope they get their just desserts.
Thank you, Phil. And there's another grandparent who's fighting here, Roger. I just want to say his work has been amazing. And
hi, I'm Roger. I'm a parent, and I haven't seen my daughter now for 17 years due to the family court system. They found nothing wrong with me. I can see any child in the world except my own, and anyone can see my child except me. She's now old enough, of course, to make up her own mind, but really is she when she has been poisoned against me for so many years? I don't know where she is now. What really gets me is that the mother's latest boyfriend or boyfriends are free to simply move in. They're presumed fine to be with my daughter from day one. No court appearances for them, no police checks, they simply move in. But report after report shows that children are best brought up knowing both parents, whether or not those parents live together. And they are more at risk from step-parents and boyfriends than from their natural parents. So why this favouritism towards any Tom, Dick or paedophile over the natural parent? I've recently come back from a visit to the Family Justice Review, which is going on at the moment. They wanted some feedback when they told me that there is going to be no question of shared parenting as an automatic presumption in law, no right in law for any parent to see their children after divorce or separation. I've told them that I cannot contribute any more because that's a basic and fundamental change that is absolutely needed, a basic human right. Also, the family courts are not going to be made open. When it was mentioned They looked in horror, as if it had never been mentioned before. We have been campaigning for opening the family courts for years and years, and I want everyone here today to sign the petition down by the corner there to open the family courts. They are a hotbed of corruption and bias. One more thing, they want to keep a lot of cases out of the family courts, which is fine because the family courts are very expensive if you go there. They want to rely on mediation, but they are not going to take into consideration any agreement made in mediation in the court if that case goes to court. So everything that you've done in mediation, if one parent then ignores everything, they're not going to take that into consideration. You start again from square one. A total waste of time. So I would suggest, please, boycott this review and write to David Norgrove, the chairman, stating why. Thank you.
Norgrove. Right, did you get that? David Norgrove, chairman of the Family Justice Review. Letter writing, that's one thing we must do. One or two more people just want to say something very quickly. In naming and shaming a local council.
My name's Ken Curran from York, and I'm here to say that York needs to be put onto the spotlight yet again. On the 6th of June 1995, I had a knock at my door to be informed that a son of mine was found hanging by the neck. I wasn't at his burial on the 9th of June, 10th of June 95. I want to expose, name and shame, Mr. Hugh Bailey, supposed MP for York, cover up with Mr. Peter Dwyer, head of social services and child services, who was promoted in the wake of my son's death. I pray you'll think of my son 2 days' time, and for God's sake, bring these people to shame, name and to justice, for Christ's sake.
Thank you. It's very raw and it's very real, people, and we've got to do something about it. Quick word from, what's your name?
Tammy.
Harry.
Tammy. Hi everybody.
Tammy.
Yes, Tammy. My fight with social services actually started over what was to be a very simple custody battle between me and my ex-violent partner. I'd had reports from the courts, from social services themselves, had what's called a Section 37 report, and it was glowing. It was a wonderful, wonderful report. The social services were talking about leaving my kids alone, there was no concerns. A month before my children were sort of taken off of their hit list, may I call it that, a new social worker came along, a student social worker, keen to impress the boss, keen to get a full-time position, young, with terrible attitude. I said something to her because she made comments that were actually untrue, and I've now been fighting for 2 years in the secret, corrupt family courts, it's all true, reading reports that amount to nothing but literal lies, which no matter whether you can prove them on those lies or not, the judge doesn't seem to be able to see it, any judge, anywhere. I'm happy to say I'm very fortunate today because right down here I have my 6 hours contact, guys, with my beautiful three of my beautiful 4 children. I love you guys, you're so brave, you're amazing. So I have my 6 hours contact here today. Social services have told me you can't bring them, but my kids know the truth about social workers because the social workers are constantly lying to my babies about me. This is what they're like, guys, you've got to be so careful, but guys, I love you, brilliant.
Thank you, Tammy, thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Cornell Brown, and I have been basically suffered abuse from my father, as he nailed me to the stairs when I was 7 years old, and I'm not happy about this at all, what he's done to me, you know, and because of him, what he's done, because he is actually a paedophile, right, my children are in care because of him, and now they are painting me with the same brush, yeah, the social services, Lambeth Social Services are painting me with the same brush as my dad, and I have never ever done anything to my daughters. I love my daughter Chloe, Jasmine, and Sharon Simons and Cleopatra McKay. They have stolen my children by fabricated lies. And in the family courts, I mean, everyone needs to wake up and smell the coffee from what I have done. Yeah, this is called common kidnapping, and everyone in this country should have human rights and equal opportunities. And we need to have justice. We want these courts to be open. Let's stop this secrecy. Let's stop everything. We need rights. What about us? This is what we need. We don't want no more cover-up. We want to see the truth. This is what we need to see.
Thank you. Right. Is this one of your groups here? We have an international spot here. This is a lady from Russia. Yeah? You wanted to say something?
Hello. My son was abducted in 17 December 98, about 13 years ago. But until I didn't know where is he. What I found corruption court, corruption family court. When Barnet Council brought letter, I asked what in this letter. This was checks. Me said they brought checks for judges. They not provide me reason why my son was taken from me. But it was revenge when I sent counsel in court about family, about housing condition. I asked, please provide me with real court orders. And in answer, they gave me section 42, restrict me, ask any inquiry about my son. But I found 6 forgery court orders for same day. How it happened? 6 forgery orders in different courts. Police, Scotland Yard, missing person unit. When I sent them with forgery court order, they told me this is criminal offense, and we sent this order in Barnet police. But because Barnet police use cruelty about my family, they refuse investigate my case, and still my case not investigated. I should like tell about my member of parliament now. He was leader of Barnet Council before. Now he